Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Let's just switch over to my stupid face. Everything's popped up all at once, that wasn't meant to happen, but vote the Leeds United View for the best Premier League podcast and like, comment and subscribe because I couldn't get through those in a quick enough time. Welcome in. I thought, because I've got a little bit of time, and you might have noticed I wasn't streaming over the last few days, that's because I've been snowed under with work stuff, so I've not really had the chance to talk about anything. But I thought I'd have a little bit of a natter about the season so far at Leeds United and roughly what we can expect going forwards and how we're all kind of feeling. Hello there, Leeds. Hope you're doing quite well. So I thought I'd discuss where we're at. I thought I'd discuss with you guys where you think we're at, and ultimately sort of we'll land with a general discussion on everything Leeds United flavoured. Is the goal, at the very least. If it doesn't quite end up that way, then my apologies, but that is where we're intending to be. And we will start on the intention to be there by knacking something up on SofaScore, rather than going to the right place. Please behave. There we go. Right, and then I'll press F11. That'll do it. Thank you very much. Hello there, Darren, I assume, rather than Dillo, because it typically tends to be. But we need to talk about the start of the season. Before I get distracted, because I don't have too long, because I got to make nachos, and then I got to eat nachos, then I got to watch Taskmaster from last week. I know, that's how far behind I am. And then I've got to go and play some seven-a-side football with a team that I'm a little bit on the fence about playing with, but we'll find out how it goes, and hopefully they're a significantly nicer bunch than they are when playing against them. But this is the general start of the story for Leeds United thus far this season, right? In which Leeds are currently sitting 15th in the table, 8 points from 7 games, goal difference of -4, which looks significant, but then again, you've got to consider that we've conceded 11 goals in total, 5 of those were in that one Arsenal game. We're ahead of Brentford, we're ahead of Forest, who I think are going to stay down there for quite a while. I feel like the biggest mistake in a long time in the world of football was seen at Forest this season, in which they were just like, no, you can say goodbye. We're having Ange now. I don't blame Postecoglou in the slightest for that situation happening at Forest, but I still think it's absolutely hilarious that he might lose his job in this international break. And then you've got the clubs that everyone sort of expected would be down there at the early stages of the season, being Burnley, being West Ham, being Wolves. Now, this does tell one story, and the story that this tells is that Leeds United are struggling and that we're not in the best of places and all that kind of stuff. But the way that I've approached the start of this season is sort of different. So I've approached the start of the season thinking we don't know how we are compared to the majority of clubs at this level. Hold on, something's gone a little bit funny on the video there. There we go, fixed it. We don't know how we compare to most of the clubs that we're playing against at the minute, primarily because the majority of these clubs have been in the Premier League for significantly longer than us, they've got better squads than us, all this kind of stuff, which gets a little bit spooky. Instead, I've been looking at performances and thinking, okay, but have we done as well as we can in this match? And yeah, we might miss a finish here or there, but we'll see how it goes. Danny's saying I'll look at it halfway point, 19 games in. The way that I'm going to approach it is after 10 matches, because at that point, everyone's got a decent sort of reasonable sample size of the sides that we've faced. So if you have a look at the teams that we've played against this season so far, right? We've had Arsenal, we've had Spurs, we've had Bournemouth. That is 3 of the top 4 that we've played against, which out of 7 matches is statistically a wild anomaly. We've also played Everton, who are 8th, so we've played half of the top 8. And then Newcastle, who are currently in the Champions League, so you don't really expect much out of them. And then beyond that is Fulham and Wolves, which is a bit of a nightmare set of matches to play in your first 7, to be completely honest with you. And I think after a couple more, you'll have a better idea, because we're playing against some slightly worse sides in the next few days, which I don't mind. Well, I say next few days, after the international break, because we all love international breaks, don't we? But I've been mainly looking at performance, and one of the best ways of establishing performance is XG, expected goals, and this is where a lot of people go, Joe, XG can't tell you anything. Yes, it does. It tells you quality of chances and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to XG, is it Control Tab? There we go. So this is the table as like it currently stands, which is just ordered by points. what XG does is get an idea of what sort of result could you expect on average. So, like, if the finishing is normalised a little bit and all that kind of stuff, where would Leeds expect to be if they played these games time and time and time again, and you got a sort of standard idea of the matches? And if you sort by expected points, things start to look significantly better. Because whilst we're only 2 points better off with our expected points sitting at 9.96 rather than the 8 that we're currently at, it's still a big leap. That puts us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th. And 10th in the table, I don't think anyone would complain about right now. I think if we're looking at where we are in the league being 10th place, and people are like, nah, that's probably not good enough, that's people lying to themselves a little bit. We've conceded a few more goals than we should have. That was primarily the Arsenal match, because Arsenal didn't record that high of an XG. They were just ridiculously clinical. And in addition to that, we've slightly underperformed in terms of goals scored by about 1. In terms of XG, in terms of goal scoring, we are not too awful. We're roughly mid-table-ish. Our attack is performing better than Fulham, better than Tottenham, better than Sunderland, who everyone was looking at and going, Sunderland are going to have a banger season right now. And you know what? They're not having a bad season, but they've not had those tricky fixtures quite yet, and they're about to get into that run. They faced Manchester United and didn't look especially great. So you need to look at performance as one of those bigger factors, and I think if you sort by performances, 1, Crystal Palace, ridiculous side. I think keep an eye on them for a very, very firm European place this season, rather than just Europa Conference League. I think they've lost once, maybe? Yeah, they've lost once. It was Everton. And then expected goals against, I think this is where we're also looking quite good. Burnley, horrible. Burnley have an expected goals against of about 16. Forest, 14.4, not good. 13.2 from West Ham. These are the sides that we can expect to find ourselves near, including Wolves. The important part about this statistic in particular is that goals conceded are what get you relegated. A lot of people have looked at, yeah, but are Leeds scoring enough? I think we're staying tight enough defensively, and that's the more important part. Having a look at the past few seasons, there was only one team that got relegated that didn't concede 75 goals or more, which is about 2 goals per game, which is bonkers. And even the team that didn't, which might have been Leicester last season, I can't quite remember because I looked this up like months ago, but even the team that didn't conceded 74 in the season that they went down. So if you are just leaking goals in the same way that Burnley are, that Forest are, that West Ham are, or at least statistically they are, then you're in trouble. But I think if you have a look at our defence, and the fact that we've got the 5th best defence in the league in terms of expected goals against, and you've got to keep in mind that, sure, in terms of pure goals against, we're not looking good, but outside of the Arsenal match, we've conceded 1 goal per game. That's solid. It's incredibly solid. And I think in terms of performance, we are doing enough. It's just about converting performance into results. And I think we've seen a little bit of that in past weeks as well. So the first few weeks of the season, everyone was looking at it and saying, we're never going to get a decent amount of chances to score goals. I don't think we're going to get enough like finishing in, all this kind of stuff. This was the narrative in the first few weeks of the season. Constantly. Now, we are creating those chances. It's just a job of getting on the end of them that we need to do, which, fair enough, I think we'll find out. But I think we do end up finishing those chances off, and I think we'll be in a far stronger position as the season goes on, because Calvert-Lewin will find that sort of run of form, because he always tends to. Farke sides always start a little bit slowly, which ideally we come out of after the international break. Mecha can potentially hop in. Piru can potentially hop in. He had 1 chance at the weekend, and it looked very, very good. And sort of unlucky not to score because Vicario was a very, very good goalkeeper. Ultimately, I think, I can't remember what else I've got saved here. There we go. We're going to have a look at player ratings, and we're going to have to keep in mind that player ratings on SofaScore are horrible. Because there was one time, it was when Bogle got the assist for Calvert-Lewin. It A, didn't count the assist for Bogle because it took a deflection on the way past, and B, gave him a rating of like a 6.0. But if you have a look at the players that are having an impact, it's not surprising to see, because Okafor has been that sort of zingy, energetic winger that we've been waiting for, and is happy to take on a man and take risks, and even when he takes risks and it doesn't work out, he'll somehow find his way with the ball afterwards. Bouillon, as a way of pronouncing Bijol, is kind of impressive. Bijol is what you're aiming for, Lee. But Okafor's been doing all that kind of stuff. Everyone saw that we signed Sean Longstaff and went, that's an unimpressive signing. He's been doing a job in that midfield, and that's all we need him to do. For me, one of the players that sort of outperformed expectations has to be Brendan Aronson. Because whilst in terms of rating, yeah, it's not great because he's not been getting the goals and the assists, his off-the-ball stuff has been incredible. Like, he's contributed massively to it'll be under Premier League, if I can find it. Goal and shot creation, right? He's massively contributed to the fact that in terms of shot creating actions from defensive actions, being if you press them, then within the next 2 actions, you've both won the ball and taken a shot. We're at the top of the league here, which is a significant portion of Brendan Aronson does really well in that press and applies those sort of difficult situations to their defensive unit, which I love to see. In terms of against as well, we've been defensively ridiculously solid in that regard. We've only had 1 opportunity created against us from those pressing situations, which I think is quite good. Admittedly, we are still in a position where we are fouling far too many players in those dangerous areas, which I think is part of the reason that we were relatively standing off them in the match at the weekend. So you'll have been able to tell time and time again, like Longstaff just didn't put a foot in sometimes, and that's because in the league, 10 times so far in the... Well, it was 6 matches that it was 10 as well. But in the 7 matches so far, we've conceded 10 shot opportunities from fouling players. So I think it's an active idea to say, okay, just stop doing that then. Don't foul the players and give them the opportunity, and that is also why they're getting a lot of opportunities from dead ball situations. But again, we've been holding those reasonably well as well, which shows that from corners, we're looking reasonably good. We're clearing them out quite nicely. It's just against Arsenal, you're going to get broken down because Arsenal are very, very good at corners. I'm liking it so far. I'm very genuinely happy with our performances so far this season. It's done the thing again. Sorry about that, but also like, comment, and subscribe, and vote the Leeds United View for Best Premier League Podcast. And also, Best Club Content Creator for the Premier League. You can scan that QR code and you'll end up there. And if it gets shortlisted, I might be able to go to a nice awards dinner. That'd be absolutely wonderful, won't it? But yeah, I am firmly of the opinion that Aronson has been one of our best players so far, and embracing that is something that I feel like we could do with doing a little bit more, because a lot of people look at it and go, Aronson, he's not too exciting. The reaction video that I posted on Twitter the other day that was Lewis Capaldi going, Leeds, the fuck are you playing at? Someone reposted that and was like, when I see Aronson in the team selection, and it's like, but he's been good. We need to embrace when players are good rather than when your own opinions are correct or incorrect. That's something that I think we need to do a little bit more. But yeah, my general take so far from the early stage of the season are that we are looking pretty damn good. I think all the underlying numbers are telling us that we should be in a better position than we are right now. We just need to get that finishing right, and I think we will do. I think getting some key players back will definitely help with that. Having Nonto able to bring on in the later stages would be spectacular. Having James available, so instead of taking off Aronson and putting on Tanaka as a right wing inside defensive thing, if you've got Dan James there, you can just say, cool, we can keep doing that same job again. And that just keeps things flowing quite nicely. I've seen, like I mentioned, of change things up a bit, do a little bit of rotation. I agree that we could do with a little bit of rotating, but that's not the way that Daniel Farke does things. The way that he rotates is he waits for injury, and then at that point, someone comes in. The new guy needs to prove that they are better before the old person comes out, which I think makes sense because we're in a position where we can't really afford to not put our best 11 out. And I don't hate it, to be honest with you. But who knows? Anyway, I'll have a quick look through the chat. There is a little bit of chat on the Perry Darlow stuff as well, which I think is quite interesting, and I'm going to take a little bit of natter about. Tanaka starts and plays a stack for me. I think it depends on opponent, because I think they do very different jobs. Tanaka is more of a control the match and control the pace of things kind of player, whereas Stack is a little bit more of a... He's a bit more of a midfield grunt, if that makes sense. He's someone that is more likely to be a little bit chunky and a little bit, whereas Tanaka's a bit more of a delicate player, but he does his stuff ridiculously well. So I don't know how I've phrased that, but I think you guys know what I mean. I don't know. How do you know your best 11 if you don't play Beal? The fact that Daniel Farke has an entire week of training to judge his players in advance of the matches themselves tells me that he probably has an idea of what Beale's level is compared to Strauch, and if in training throughout the week Strauch is looking clearer of Beale, then he's going to play Pascal Strauch. He's not just going to chuck in Beale here and there. Been concerned about Tanaka recently, he's looked a little lightweight. I wouldn't say concerned. I'd say curious, because I think he's going to react really, really well to the Premier League. I think he just needs to get up to the pace a little bit, because for me, he's not looked lightweight, because there's not a case of he's been barged off the ball a shitload. For me, it's more typically been not estimating the amount of time that he has on the ball right, and that's where he gets caught out. I think once he's up to speed, that'll make sense. There was also a nice point a couple of weeks back, I can't remember who against, but Tanaka just sort of played his way through 3 different players who were all trying to challenge him, and it's like, that's very nice, because you do the technical side of things ridiculously well. Training's not playing. Yeah, you're right. You are completely correct. But in that last match just then, I don't think bringing Beal on for Strauch would have done anything, to be honest with you. And I think when you've got a centre-back pairing that is like the 5th best in the league in terms of XG conceded, you don't say, okay, cool, but we're going to change things because Yak is getting a bit sad on the bench. Like, if it's working, you stick with it, which feels a little bit good. Borno scored a couple of times in a recent training video and needs to start. Yeah, but as a counterpoint, I scored a couple of times last week in the warm-up at 7-a-side. That it doesn't, like, all you're doing is seeing a little bit of you're seeing 5 minutes of training, and that is 5 cleverly edited together minutes. I don't think we see enough. Beal needs minutes, or he'll be well off it when he's needed. I don't know. I've never been a fan of the idea of just sort of hand out the minutes to players because they might need them. Because at the same time, if you get yourself in a situation where you quite desperately need to, like, get a goal, you're not just going to say, well, we'll whack on Beal because he needs a little bit of time on the pitch. No, you're going to play the players that suit the situation. And yeah, sure, in the match against... who was it? Bournemouth. In the match against Bournemouth, maybe, sure, you chuck on Beal, but that wasn't the decision that was made. I don't think complaining about that immediately after the Spurs match is one that necessarily makes sense, because I don't think he would have made sense for the Spurs game. On the Darlow thing, I will be honest with you, going through the goals that happened against Spurs on Saturday, I'm not a fan of the way that Darlow's dealt with the first. Because a lot of people will point to the deflection, and the deflection is not good, to be completely fair to Carl Darlow. Darlow has set himself, started to move in the direction of the shot, and yes, the deflection's gone the complete other direction. But it deflects basically on the edge of the 18-yard area, which means that there is more than enough time to see that deflection and go, uh-oh. Because if there's a shot from there, that exact same place, and he concedes that goal in exactly the same way, you're not going to be very happy with him. Because it's not great, to be completely honest. Like, I think he should have done better on the first one. I can't quite remember the second, I've got to be completely honest with you. Again, that was one that took a deflection. That one was a little bit of a horrible one, in all fairness to him. Because that comes under Strauch's leg, rather than bouncing off and up. But I would still lean towards starting Perry, because we know his distribution's better, because we've seen it. And I don't think that Arsenal result is enough to write him off in the same way that a lot of people have chosen to write him off for that one. At least in my opinion. I don't understand people talking about we need Nonto or James back starting. What I've seen this season when Aronson came in after both got injured, he's outperformed both. I don't know about outperformed. I will agree with you that he's done very, very, very well. I agree that James didn't quite look fit, to be honest, and I think a decent chunk of time on the sideline is probably going to do him good. Admittedly, it's longer than we want it to be. It's the 4 to 6 week sort of territory, but by after the international break, we should be seeing Nonto back anyway. So that helps the situation a little bit, and it gives us that more attacking option on the right-hand side, which ain't too bad. Where are we? People talking Goodmanson, Harrison. I don't know, to be honest with you, because at the same time as that match, I was working. So it's one of those where I'm like, I got to keep an eye on work, but at the same time, are Leeds United have Leeds caught up yet? And the answer being no was a little bit sad. Nonto for me was running into one, it's cul-de-sac. Two, does cup-de-sac work? Because it's kind of cup of the bag. Maybe. I was corrected to cull. There we go. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that match at the weekend isn't one that we should ultimately judge the squad by. And I know a lot of people will. But I think that's purely a case of, if you have a look at the players that were bringing off the bench, shit all that you can do. Richarlison off the bench, Kevin Danso off the bench, Brennan Johnson off the bench, Papi Matasar off the bench, leaving on the bench Archie Gray, Jed Spence, Ben Davis, Lucas Bergvall, whilst having... This is a list of players to have out, right? Kolo Muani, James Maddison, Kulusevski, Dragusin, Solanke, Basuma. That's their injured list. And every single one of that injured list probably starts for Leeds United. That's the sort of thing that we're talking. So, like, when I've seen people say this weekend, it wasn't good enough, we needed to get a point there. No, those are the matches that you can lose. Those are the matches you can say, yeah, okay, you're probably going to lose that one. I would, as I mentioned on Big Up over on Jer's stream, I take a performance from that one, because you just need to prove that your team can hang with other teams of that level, and I think that we did. Still think it was a massive mistake getting rid of Largy. I would agree with you if his loan was going differently. So if I go to Largy Ramazani and I have a look at his recent matches. So, recently, he's very much been a bench player. So if I head over to FBref actually rather than SofaScore, because that gives me more accurate data. Largy Ramazani. Let's have a look. Right. Have a look at matches from this season. Nice. Right. So thus far, he has played 5 games of football in La Liga, right? Which you might think, okay, that's not too bad. He's getting a little bit of game time. It's not great, though, because the amount of game time is slightly stinky. So head over to Monitor 2, there we go. He's not started for them yet, at all. And he's gotten 1 assist. He's played a total of 90 minutes since he moved. He's also been injured. Yeah, sure, he has a bit, but that doesn't explain why he didn't start this Saturday when he wasn't injured, or before that, on the Tuesday, when he wasn't injured. Or, sure, he missed the Saturday match before that, but the Saturday before that, he was also on the bench. Like, the fact that he's not really even getting significant minutes is not a good sign to me, to be honest, and isn't a sign that we should have necessarily kept him around. I think a lot of people always prefer to have the thing that they've not got right now. It's sort of the grass is always greener, or the shiny different thing is always going to be what changes things. And you're always going to have people going, yeah, but what if he was really, really good? Sure, that's one potential outcome. The potential outcome in which Aronson is really, really, really good is brilliant. Fantastic. But the reality of the situation is he's gone to Valencia and he's played exactly the same role as he would have played at Leeds United. You also hop over to Mateo Joseph, who is currently at Mallorca, before anyone makes the point of, we need Mateo. He's played 7 matches so far, he's gotten 1 assist, right? And if we have a look at his matches so far this season, he was starting. So he went over there, didn't start his first match, but came off the bench at half-time in a 3-0 loss to Barca. Fine. He then started the next 4 games, which is, he's been given a decent opportunity over there to really make a bit of an impact. And what he did in that time was no goals, no assists. There was one match where everyone was looking at him being like, yeah, you know what, he's done really, really well there. He's won a penalty for them. Brilliant. He didn't win the penalty. Or at least he kind of did, but to phrase it as him winning the penalty feels like a bit of a stretch. Because what happened was the defender grabbed his shirt and pulled him to the ground. That's not anything that Matteo has done to earn it. That's a case of the defender has been stupid enough in 2025 in a league with VAR to grab at a shirt and pull someone downwards. I'm not really going to get totally on the guy's sort of coattails for the fact that he was fouled in the penalty box. And beyond that, he's gotten an assist once. So I think what we sort of need to do as a fan base at the moment is, rather than say X, Y, or Z player that was here or could be, it's doing the thing again. Hold on, I'll get rid of them. Sorry about that. But also, like, comment, and subscribe. Sorry. But we need to get out of this thing where, as a fan base, we're looking at all of the players that we could have had, and we're going, imagine if we had them. Oh, that'd be good, wouldn't it? We don't. And we're not going to, at the very least, until the end of the season, because we're not going to be recalling either of them. If anything, we're going to be signing a new potential winger, because Ramazani plays out on the left. We don't need another left winger. We need another right winger, which means that if anyone is going to come back or come in, it's not going to be Largy coming back. So I think the folks that lean into it and sort of say, yeah, you know what? I think we'd be doing fantastically with Largy right now. It's all ifs, buts, and maybes. There is no guarantee of any of that being the case or ever being the case. So I think that's a bit of discussion that we should probably not bother with anymore, because that's not the reality of the situation. And I think all we're doing is a disservice to the players that are here and are actually doing pretty damn well for us so far this season. It's something that I think we'd do well to get away from, to be honest. But also, yes, as Danny says, smash a like and subscribe, hype after the stream. It all helps, because YouTube is still a nightmare. Just to quickly explain something, do I do a video on this, or do I just do a little bit of discussion on this? I might video it, but basically it's been very, very hard to do YouTube stuff the last few weeks. So anyone that is here, I massively appreciate it, and please continue to come back, because I'm doing my best to make good stuff in spite of a bunch of different conditions making it difficult to do so. Can't see Joseph scoring any of the chances we've missed, nor Largy impacting a game more than we have. Yeah, I mean, the one main difference that you could probably look at is that what Ramazani brings from the right wing is the ability to run at a player that Aronson doesn't necessarily do. But at the same time, if Largy's running at a player, you've still got Bogle going around the outside, so all you're doing is wasting that opportunity a little bit, because, well, Bogle's wasted his run now, and if Bogle is one of the best players in the squad, it's not a run that you want to waste, because we know he's very, very good at what he does. Sure, Largy, able to take a man on, sometimes. It's about consistency, I think, and I think the choice to stick with the more consistent players is one that is going to pay off for us more than it doesn't. And I think that's what happened during the squad building process. Just picking out the players that are going to be a bit consistent, that are going to do what you need them to do, rather than do the shiny things sometimes. Because that isn't what keeps you in a Premier League. That's what has you winning the occasional game of football, like against Liverpool or against Bournemouth, but going down anyway. Which I think is something that we can ideally do with avoiding, if it is possible. Yeah. If anyone else has any other bits and bobs to say, please shout them in the chat. I'll go for another couple of minutes, and then I need to make some food and watch Taskmaster and other bits and bats. But yeah, status calculated after Bournemouth, so numbers aren't right now, but I think they were. If we had our current points per game, we'd have finished 14th last season with 45.6 points, rounded to 45. If we finished with a hypothetical points game, would have had with no Fulham on goal and no equaliser, would have finished 4th with 69.6. Oh. Never as easy as that in real life, and I'd obviously take the 14th now if offered, but it could cost if we keep throwing away points. I agree, and I think one of the things that keeps getting overlooked is fixtures. So in the upcoming however many matches, next up we got Burnley, who are currently 18th. That is a very good opponent to face coming back from an international break. Then we've got West Ham, who are 19th. After West Ham is, let's have a look, Brighton, sure, Brighton, very good side. Then it's Forest, who are a mess. Then it's Villa, who have been a mess. But then we get into the tricky bit. So up until Forest, we need to be picking up some points. And then in the tricky bit, we do what we can. But for now, I'm fairly happy with the direction that we're going in. And I'm hoping that we'll be going the right way. No, it's nachos that I'm making tonight. I got a rotisserie chicken from Sainsbury's. And I'm going to be shredding that. Doing a little bit of mushroom, bit of onion. A little bit of nice seasoning in there. Then nachos stuff. Cheese on the top, guacamole and salsa. Go nuts. It's a nice light tea that always works when I'm about to be goalkeeping because it's not too heavy on the body. It looks after you as much as you look after it. 17th is the goal for the season. Anything more is bonus. Yeah, if we're in the position at any point where we're disappointed that we're not going to end up in the top 10, then we've done our job. In my opinion, at least. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to bring the stream to a close there. As mentioned, it is getting tricky to do YouTubey stuff at the minute, so if you haven't yet, I massively appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Becoming a channel member as well is massively appreciated, just because being able to definitely earn something out of YouTube is going to be essential, given the babby on the way. And yeah, if you enjoyed, pop a like on it. Comment after the fact if you're watching this afterwards. All that fun stuff. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo. Also subscribe to Danny if you want, he's nearly at 300. Yay. Anyway, bye guys.